So hello everyone and welcome to Lucknow MuleSoft Meetup group. The topic for our today's meetup is Design Business Flow with MuleSoft Composer, connecting process flow with Snowflake data platform. And with us we have our speaker Ananda, who is going to do the presentation for us. So talking to the organizer, we are the organizer for the group. So Akib, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Abhishek. This is Akib Javed. So, total around 9 years of and relevant role is around 4 years. I'm working with TCS as a assistant consultant, and I'm certified architect and developer. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you. So hello everyone. Sheikh, I'm a MuleSoft investor. I'm working in Episado as an associate solution architect. I have 7+ years of total experience and 5+ years in MuleSoft. I'm a certified developer and architect. I write blogs. I'm a meetup leader for Guwahati and Lucknow. I create video as well. So coming to our safe harbor statement. So both the speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in individual capacity only. We are not presenting our companies here. This presentation is strictly for learning purpose only. Organizer or presenter do not hold any responsibility that same solution will work for your business requirement. This presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. So some housekeeping. As we know, we are recording the session. So a recording of the session will be uploaded in the meetup page within 24 hours. Or any doubt, just feel free. You have got mic access. So just feel free to put your questions and anyone from the group can answer that. It's not like the organizer or speaker should only do that. And at last, the main thing, the feedback, which is very much important for all of us. So it will help us to improve our meetup. It will help us to bring more topics. You can also suggest what topic you want. Now coming to our speaker, Ananda.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So myself, Ananda, and I have 17+ years of total experience in IT. And I'm working last 5 years in MuleSoft and working in TCS as an integration architect as well as a project manager. And I'm a MuleSoft mentor. I try to contribute to MuleSoft community as much as possible, and I'm still learning MuleSoft from the community. And I'm a certified developer and architect. I used to write blogs and I have a YouTube channel also. So yeah, that's pretty much about me.
Yep. Thank you, Ananda. And let me stop sharing and you can
Sure.
start sharing your screen.
Yeah, sure. So is it visible now?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay. Okay, so let me start with this presentation. So what I will do, I will try to switch between this PPT deck and the original Composer console so that we can cover as much as possible within the time. So this is the flow of the entire presentation. So I would prefer to start with little bit idea on hyper automation and what MuleSoft offering in the hyper automation space, and then we'll move to see what are the, I mean, some of the details of MuleSoft Composer, and then finally I will touch base at, maybe I will give 1,000 feet above some idea on what is Snowflake, and we'll see one business case demo. So this term hyper automation Gartner has coined, I think, last year. What they are trying to say is that hyper automation is an initiative from every organization where actually end-to-end business should be automated as much as possible. So if the difference between automation and hyper automation is that automation often done in silos, means suppose one specific team having some specific requirement within a part of an entire end-to-end process, maybe they have done some kind of automation, but hyper automation is not like that. So hyper automation is something which will actually impact the entire organization through an end-to-end process. So for example, like if you are creating a service request through Service Cloud, and then you want to do that service request to be to be registered on Jira, and then it should go to through some communication channel to your operational team. And once the service has been done, you would send a customer feedback to your customer. So the entire process, if you want to do in an automated way, and if that automation, business and IT both can work on that automation and get benefited out of it, then it might be a candidate for hyper automation. I'm not going through this slide. I'm just explaining what my idea of hyper automation after going through the definition of hyper automation. So that hyper automation will cover many spaces. The spectrum is very wide. So it can be artificial intelligence, machine learning, event driven integration, then RPA, process integration, process management, or your low code no code tools, iPaaS platform. So many things comes into picture, and then many things comprises the overall hyper automation landscape. Moving to next slide. So this is what is the Mule hyper automation offering. So as of now, MuleSoft has three component or three technology stack together, which is building the hyper automation. One is definitely MuleSoft Anypoint platform, which is the API-led automation tool, which we all are known for. MuleSoft is known for so long; they are doing it so well. Now, along with that, they have introduced MuleSoft RPA, which is basically robotic process automation to automate those tasks which are more human interactive, and where you don't have any kind of API or integration scope. So basically, suppose you have a desktop application and someone has to go and manually enter a lot of data every day. So that kind of automation, if you want to do, you can go for a RPA. And then there is a MuleSoft Composer, which is a no-code solution for business people to create a process flow end-to-end. Now, if you see this diagram, there is always an interaction point between all three technology stacks. So that means from your Composer, you can refer a already developed MuleSoft RPA process, or you can refer a MuleSoft API from your Anypoint platform, and you can very well fit it into your Composer process flow and create a robust, intelligent, automated end-to-end business process, which will be owned by the business. Second thing is that these technology stacks, what MuleSoft is also promoting this product, that your IT team need not to be involved every time. So you can offload your IT team, because the way MuleSoft Composer, and you will see the way MuleSoft Composer has been designed, it is so easy that a business person without any coding background can develop a process flow, because they have the business knowledge, they know what to interact with, and they can just create a process with using some clicks. And suppose there are some complex logic or some complex interaction is needed, so what you can do, your IT team can come, they can create some API, and MuleSoft a business team can use those API in their process flow, like some off-the-shelf API which is ready-madely available, and they can use it in their process flow instead every time going to IT for each and every integration requirement. Same is true for RPA. So automation team can create some MuleSoft RPA process, and then that can be leveraged across Composer flow by business team. And overall, what is the advantage of this, or what is the key differentiator for MuleSoft than other competitor, is that they are actually introducing a lot of composability, like Anypoint platform API-led connectivity. The entire theme is based on this composability factor, and that same composability factor is being introduced in MuleSoft RPA, because you can create a RPA flow, and then you can publish that MuleSoft RPA on Exchange, and then you can refer that RPA from outside, like it from your Composer or from Anypoint platform. Anyways, our focus today's discussion is only on MuleSoft Composer. So now we'll do a deep dive into the MuleSoft Composer part. So before doing this is some of the stats on the hyper automation part, which I gather from Salesforce. They do, MuleSoft and Salesforce do some study or some kind of uh, uh, they have connected with many companies, and based on that, they come out all these statistics. So, at least, I mean, you can see the numbers are very high. All organizations, especially after post-pandemic, it's a trend that everyone is looking for hyper automation. And now, one another fact is that how hyper automation is benefiting digital transformation. So when we talk about digital transformation, it is mostly like that you need to do a lot of digitization of your existing application. So digital transformation every time talks about that you replace your legacy application, bring some new digital experience, and modernize your entire business process across your enterprise. But the problem is that you cannot do digital transformation in overnight, because business is always skeptical. They don't want to do a drastic change of the, even if the application is legacy, but doing a drastic change can impact their business. So here comes the hyper automation, because as I mentioned that RPA and then composer, these things, what they can do, they can work with your legacy application. Like suppose you you have some manual uh, activity involved where you are downloading lot of documents, and then you are reading those documents and loading it to some Excel sheet or some sort of that thing. So what you can do, you can use a RPA process. There are OCR, and through which it can scan those documents, take some information, load it, and that way it can automate the entire thing without even any need to replace any of the legacy application. So that's why hyper automation also boosting this digital transformation across the industry. So with that, I'm taking a pause if there is any question, or we can move on to next section. Yes.
Question answer segment. So
And okay, if there is anything, just let me know. Otherwise,
Yeah, sure.
okay. So this is what is MuleSoft Composer. I mean, as I mentioned, that MuleSoft Composer is basically been created for business process automation without having any coding background. And this is mostly managed by business, and obviously. So these are the flow stages of MuleSoft Composer life cycle. So first, when you need to, once you start with the composer, the first thing what you need, definitely first you need to understand the process what you are trying to create, and then you need to create connections. So connections are like whatever end application you want to integrate, or whatever end application you want to connect. For that, you need to create connection, like you have to give the user ID, you have to provide the password, you have to provide the endpoint URL, and based on the type of connection, few more details may you need to provide. So like suppose you want to connect with your and read some emails. So that way you need to create a connection which will allow you to connect to Gmail. So once you create that connection you can utilize across multiple flow. But as a business process owner, if you create a connection, you can only use that connection. Another person having access to that same composer organization, they cannot utilize it. The reason is that this way, actually, it ensures that your connections are still secure. Because suppose I am a business person, I have a Gmail account, my company Gmail account, and I want to read my mails and all, and I create a connection. But I definitely don't want someone else also to use that connection, and even not directly, even they should not I don't allow anyone to access my inbox. So this way it will ensure. Second thing is that once you create the connection, you cannot see the connection parameter once it got created. So you can only see the name of that connection. You can utilize the connection in your flow, but if you want to see that what is the user ID I added connection, or what is the password I added the connection, you cannot see that. So when you create the connection, it will always first test the connection. If the connection is successfully tested, then it will create the connection, and then it will let you do the next step. So once the connection got created, the next thing what you need to do, trigger is actually component will trigger the composer flow. So it can be a scheduler or it can be a event processor. So scheduler means it has a inbuilt scheduler, so you can mention that every 15 minutes this flow needs to be triggered and then it will do something. Or you can create an event processor, means there are few event processor, like you have a Snowflake connection, you can have a Salesforce connection, so through which you can connect to that, I mean that event, I mean any event occurred within that application will trigger that flow. And there are multiple event processors, I mean type of events are available. Like for Snowflake, you can trigger the flow on insertion of a data or update of a data. And then you create actions. So actions is like once the flow got triggered, then you want to go and down the line, maybe you want to load data into some target application. So you can create that kind of that actions. And then you can, once your flow is completed, you can save it and test it. When you test, it will give you a 10 minutes window. After 10 minutes, your test will automatically stop. But within 10 minutes, if you trigger, I mean, you have during testing also you have to trigger the flow. Once you trigger the flow, either it is will be successful or it will be failed. So it will stop at that point of time. But if that is not, something is not happening, so as I mentioned, I mean after 10 minutes your test will automatically stop and you have to retest once again. So once your test is done, you can activate the flow. Once you activate, that means it will be productionized. So now your flow will be ready to use in your day-to-day activity, and you can keep on monitoring the flow. So the next slide also I have explained most of the things in the earlier slide. Only thing is that there is a flow control activity. One is loop, another is if else. So you can loop through the your something if you want to loop through, like if you have a collection of objects or a list objects, so you can loop it through. And definitely if you want to put some if else kind of conditional flow, that also possible in MuleSoft Composer. And data fields is actually, it will show you the data structure, and also it give you some kind of function, so you can do kind of data transformation. And this whatever Composer data transformation, as far as I know, that is built based on data whip. So it's not like that you have to you can write a data whip, but the functions whatever you can use, they are actually built, that those inbuilt functions are created on top of data whip. So but yes, obviously, as I mentioned, you don't need any coding experience, so those functions you can use as simple way as possible. And then connection we already discussed. So let me go to the Composer console itself. Okay, so this is my Composer console. Let me know if you all can see it. I mean, is it visible on the screen?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So once you log into Composer, so these are the two flow I have created. So I can see my flows. Here is the, if I go to this flow section, it will automatically show my flow. This is actually the overview section. So it will show my, the username, what are the recently updated flow, when I last update it, and I can create a new flow from here. And I will see this template also. So next thing is that I can directly go to the flow and I can manage the flows. So at this moment, both my flows are inactivated, but if I go to these three dots and I can open it, edit it, clone it, okay, even I can delete the flow. So if I open the flow, you can see that this is the run history. So once I activate my flow, then it will start monitoring how it is going. So once it's got failed, so if I click on this failed message, it will show me at which step it got failed, what is the error type. So all these details you will get. So we'll see this error message once again. Now going back to usage summary. So this is actually after after end of a month, within 5 business days, it will show you what is your usage summary. So that means you can understand that based on your license, how much, what is your usage pattern and how much usage is still left. So then we can go to template. Yeah, so these are ready-madely available template provided by MuleSoft. If you want to, I mean, if you have and if you see these templates everywhere, it has mentioned or in the description some process-related information are there. Like you create configuration item from associate incident asset. So if someone is doing the same thing, they can click on this template. It will open the template and it will give you some detail that how you can use this template. So what it will do, if you want to click, I mean, if you want to use this template, you have to click on this, use this template, and then you need to create the connection. I mean, this Salesforce and ServiceNow connection you have to create. I don't have those connections, so I cannot show you further, but once you click on create flow, then it will show you a predefined flow. Now you can use the flow as is with all the your own connection configured. You can I mean, modify a bit, you can delete some of the things, you can add some of the things, everything is possible. Only thing is that it's kind of jumpstart it is providing, so you need not to create the flow from scratch if you have a ready-made template available here. And then it is setting, it is more like your admin kind of work activity, your user security, all these things you can manage from these settings. And obviously from help section you can go to help, and you can go to MuleSoft document, you can go to Trailblaze, and you can if you need any kind of technical help or some kind of help on MuleSoft Composer, more details from you can get it from here, and from here I can log off from my account. So any questions so far?
No, there is no question in the chat, but I have one question, Ananda.
Yeah,
So
sure.
to test this MuleSoft Composer, since I have not used before, so is this a trial available for us to create account, login, and
No, there is no trial version, but what you can do is that you can check with your company account executive, I mean the person managing the
Mhm.
relationship with MuleSoft, and they can sign up some contract with MuleSoft, and then MuleSoft will provide provision some kind of access which is restricted to within that organization. But personal trial version like we used to have in any point platform, that is not
Yes.
possible with
Oh,
MuleSoft Composer and RPA.
okay, okay, got it.
So like it will be just provided to the partners, correct? MuleSoft
Correct,
partners, whoever
correct,
is
correct.
MuleSoft
Yes.
partner.
Correct. To the partner, but that is also on demand basis because it will not automatically provide it. Someone
Yeah,
from
on
partner.
request.
Yeah, on request.
So hi Ananda,
Yeah, hi.
Yusuf this side. Actually, I'm also working on MuleSoft, and I think from last 1 year I'm just working. So I have listened first time this MuleSoft Composer. So I have no idea about MuleSoft Composer. Like, where should I learn from that? If I want to learn, like I want to do some practice for that. It is not free.
No, this is, as I mentioned, for practicing, you need to connect with your account executive, MuleSoft account executive. Okay, and as Abhishek mentioned that, I mean, this will be for a partner, it's like they will provide you some access at partner level. So like, suppose I am working in TCS, so they have provide a some subscription to TCS. So now as part of TCS practice, I have been allowed to log in into this particular console and I can do something. So that is the only option. I mean, like in any point platform, we can have a trial version. I don't
Right.
need depend, right? So that is not possible here.
Okay.
So I hope I able to answer the question.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to these things, the Salesforce connector first. So if I go to that flow now, I mean in detail, I'm just clicking on the edit button. So before we move to Salesforce, I mean, anyways, I have a slide down the line, but let me give some, I mean, at least some idea on why we are so much talking of Snowflake. So basically, Snowflake is a cloud-based data platform. And when I say data platform, Snowflake has the capability to do any kind of data management. Maybe it's your data engineering, maybe it's your data lake, maybe data analytics, everything Snowflake support. Okay, and that is the one of the biggest strength of Snowflake is that you can use it as your organization level data platform. So instead of managing data into silos, you can manage your entire organizational data within Snowflake, and you can utilize it down the line the way you want it to be. And Snowflake has its own SQL engine, so it gives a lot of performance, lot of elasticity, because Snowflake is as a SaaS application originally developed on AWS, and I believe now it's also available on Google and GCP and Azure. So anyways, so the main strength of this the main reason to you give a Snowflake connection in MuleSoft Composer is that when you create a process flow, sometimes you have to deal with lot of, you want to create a process which can take some data driven decision, right? So that's why it is important that we should have a connection to a Snowflake, data platform like Snowflake, and I can retrieve some data which I want to utilize in my down the line processing. So I already have some Snowflake connection created, but I can create one more Snowflake connection. So first I need to show you how to create the connection. So suppose I click on this system action. Okay, so I just click on this plus button, and I will click on this system action because my trigger event is already created over here. So I just have now option to create action. So if I click on system action, you can see all the out of the box actions are available. So I will select Snowflake, and once I select Snowflake, so these all are created. I can add a new, and I have to give a name. Suppose I give demo Snowflake, and can give a role. So this role you can get it from here. So if you go to your Snowflake account, and if you click here, you will see this is the role, this is your warehouse detail, this is the database name, this is the schema. So all this information you need to provide over here. So this way I will take it from here. I will take this as my user, my schema, and actually, since I have already created one same connection, so now I am getting all this information automatically. But when you create first time, you have to manually type. Okay, you have to provide the password. This is my password, which I'm not supposed to show, but it's my trial account, no issue. This is my warehouse name, and now the account name. Account name you will get it from here. So this is your account name. Thing before snowflakecomputing.com is your account name. So you can use this, you copy it from here, you can use this, and then it will ask this connect. So if you click this connect, it is testing that all this information I have provided is correct, and it can connect to the Snowflake account connected. So now it is allowing me to set up an action. So my connection got created, and automatically for this action, it will going to use this particular connection what I have just created. So now I click on the action, it will allow me to delete, insert, select, update, whatever I want to do. If I want to do select, then it will allow me to create a edit. If I edit, I can put a SQL string over here, and it will start, it will work accordingly. So let me delete it. So I'm deleting this step. Now next thing is that now suppose I have already created one connection, and I finally understand that there are some duplicate connection, or maybe due to some reason I don't want to continue with that connection. So how to delete that connection? So for deleting the connection also, you have to come to this flow. You have to click here. You have to again do the system action, and you have to come to this Snowflake. Once you click on Snowflake, you will see the connection option. Once you click it, each connection, either you can edit it or you can delete it. Now, if I want to edit, as I mentioned, once the connection got created, you will not able to see any of the connection configuration. Only thing what you can edit is that you can change the connection name. Okay. Now if I want that what user I have used to create this demo Snowflake Lucknow, I will not able to do this. Okay, so that's the way how it is ensuring that no one can see these parameters and no one can, no one can steal the access. Okay. And then if I want to delete, now I'm going to delete it. So I will click on delete, and it will first check that whether any other flow or anyone in this flow or any of the flow which I own is using this particular connection or not. If no one is using, it will allow me to delete. If someone is using this connection, it will not allow me to delete. Same thing holds true for this rename. If I want to rename it, and if someone else is using this same connection, I change this to something like this, and I click on rename. Okay, I think it's allowed me to rename, but I don't want to rename because I believe I'm using it somewhere.
So we have one question, Ananda, from
Sure.
Vijay and
Sure.
from Hari.
Sure.
So Vijay is asking, how can we do the testing for the composer flow?
Yeah, we will come to that point. Just give me some time. Once I explain, you will
and one
see this
question is
test
from
button.
and one question is from Hari. Can we use the same connection details for all the actions to be performed? In this case, I hope we can perform all the action in Snowflake with single
Yes,
connection.
correct. If you see on my screen, this is the action for trigger. This is the action for next action also, and I'm using the same connection. If I highlighted the connection name. So yes, if you create the connection and the same connection you want to use in the across your flows, even across your flows, not only specific to this flow, you can do this. And as I show you that whenever you click and create a system action, and then you will sorry, give me one moment. So if you click this Snowflake, so all Snowflake connection you have created so far will automatically appear. You choose from that and you continue using that. And doesn't matter that whether you have created this connection in this flow or some other flow. As long as you own the flow and you created the connection, it will be available across all flow. Makes sense?
Yeah, thanks, Ananda.
No. Okay, so now,
So we
so
have one
now,
more question.
sure, go ahead.
So there was Raghavendra is asking, there was one option to clone the flows in flows tab.
Correct.
Will it copy the connection as well?
I think yes, it will do that. Yeah, you can export it also, you can import it also, you can do that, yes.
Hey, hi Ananda, Shobit
Yeah.
this side.
Yeah.
One question I have. So actually, I'm using Snowflake in my project, in the
Okay.
product base. Yes, so I think this is a good example for me. But just wanted to ask one question, like how we maintain a performance for these Snowflake connections, because we are just pushing large number of data, even we are hitting good amount of store procedures. So
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So, Shravik, it's a good question. So, one thing is that suppose if you already using Snowflake connector that MuleSoft offered, right? Out of the box MuleSoft connector.
basically, we are not using Snowflake, we are connecting via JDBC.
Oh, okay. So one suggestion is that, I don't know what is the reason you are using JDBC. If possible, because if you're using JDBC, you have to do a kind of connection pooling by your own. If you don't want to do that, you can use a MuleSoft connection, MuleSoft out of the box Snowflake connector, which is actually built on top of that JDBC itself, but it has a lot of inbuilt performance management capacity provided by MuleSoft, and you need not to worry about that. Now there are a lot of operations available. Okay, and what I am talking about, it is purely MuleSoft connection, not Composer connection. So Composer Snowflake connection, you can say it's a simplified version of MuleSoft Snowflake connection. So as you know, as you are using or Snowflake, so you know there are a lot of operation possible in Snowflake. If you have to use some kind of complicated operation, or you need to use some kind of complex operation, which is not a good fit for MuleSoft Composer, because as I mentioned, MuleSoft Composer is for business people who are more creating this flow without any IT or coding background. So if you have such complex requirement, you can create a system API on your Snowflake connector, and then you can use that system API inside your composer flow. You can use it as a HTTP connection. We will show how, I will show you how to configure HTTP connection also. Or you can take it, there is a REST consumer connection is also available. So what you can do, you can actually link your composer organization to your AnyPoint org, and whatever API you have created in that AnyPoint org, that API will be automatically available. So that Snowflake system API will be available, and instead of creating a connector here, that business team can directly use that connector through some HTTP connection or REST API. And then, that way you can manage your performance on the MuleSoft level, not at the composer level.
Okay. So you talk about this composer flow. So like I'm seeing that composer flow have a multiple usage. Like we can use composer flow in a multiple ways. Like for example, we are maintaining a multiple environments in our system. So whenever we are deploying any code to particular system, so we have to do a kind of a regression testing. So just a ask from my side, like can we use also composer to do the kind of a regression testing by defining a kind of a template or pre-script over there?
I don't think that is possible in Composer. Okay, because Composer is more of a, once you test, you have to test it from here. So you can click on the test, and regression testing in the sense, if you are saying some kind of automated testing, I think you need to do the automation on the trigger event. So suppose I am, for an example, suppose this trigger event is trying to create, it will get invoked when there is a new row into that table, right? So now you can create a script which will load, say, 10 data, 15 data on your Snowflake table, and in turn that will start this composer flow, and that in the testing mode you can see that how the composer works. That way it is possible, but I think if you are asking something like a unit or something, that sort of testing, that is not possible in composer.
Okay, got it.
But automation is possible, but you have to do a little bit tricks. Your automation should automate the triggering event so that you can generate multiple trigger and you can cover all the test cases based on that.
Okay. And this for this composer flow, like we already have a kind of a gold license from the MuleSoft. We are using large number of like a workers over there. So
Okay.
based on that license, are we able to get this composer flow like within that license, or
No, no. It's a separate licensing scheme. So it's like lot of, this composer and RPA is kind of pay as you go type of licensing. So you can talk to MuleSoft. So what is happening? This is they are selling this RPA and composer and the lightweight AnyPoint platform as their hyper automation or automation offering. So once you go for automation offering, they will do, they will give you some credits for some amount of months. Suppose 6 months you can purchase 50,000 credit, and one single credit is 2 minutes of processing. So suppose you have 5 composer flow, you are processing it every 5, all 5 are processed for say 1 minute. So that means it will altogether it will be 5 minutes, and 5 minutes divided by 2, so that will be 2.5 credits will be consumed. And at the end of 6 months, it will, if you consumed all your credits before 6 months, then again you need to purchase the credit. Otherwise, this entire credit will be available till the end of your 6 months. And as I may show you this pattern through usage summary, here you can see every month what how much consumption you have already done and what is left. So that much I know, but I would also recommend talk to your MuleSoft account executive. They will give you more details, more pricing breakup and everything. So it's little bit, and if you want to know about pricing, I would also suggest that there is a course available on MindTickle. It's called Automation Pre-Sales, I think. So for the pre-sales course, if you go through, they have a lot of videos on how the price calculation happened in the automation space.
Okay.
Okay, so coming back to now this flow, we have now created a connection. So now I have to provide a event. So I can provide a these are the two, sorry, those are the two triggering event available. It can be new or updated row, or it can be a new row. Now here is a catch. When you creating a MuleSoft table, and if you want to poll on that table, ensure that you have some audit column like create date or updated date. Okay, because when you come to Composer, it will look for some date field and it will ask you to select one of the date field as your created date column, so that based on that date field value, it will keep on polling the table. I mean, it will decide whether it's a new row or it's a new or updated row. So when I create this particular this trigger field, sorry, this this table, if I show you the details, I have created one created date column to use for this Composer so that I can use the table as a triggering event. And then what you can do, I mean, here what I'm trying to do is that I want to use a for each down the line. That means what I'm trying to do is that it may be possible due to that triggering event, I can get multiple data in my table, and I want to do a for each on top of those data. I want to sequentially process those that result set. So for that, to create a collection object, I have to use a SQL string. What I am trying to do is I'm counting the number of rows, and I am given some condition. I mean, don't go whether it's a right condition and wrong condition. This is just for demo purpose, but you can create very well your condition. Like if you are polling every 15 minutes, like if you have a scheduling job, instead of a triggering event from a polling from a table, you have a scheduler, then maybe you can use that. Okay, every 15-minute range, whatever data is getting inserted or updated, I want to only get that row. So you accordingly construct your SQL string and get that number of rows, and then I am using a for each where I have used this list of objects. So data pill will allow me to, show me whatever, list of objects are available, and I can select it. So if there is no list of objects, then you will not able to define this for each. So that's why I need to perform this step. And once it is done, finally what I'm doing, I'm writing it on a Google Sheet. So this is my Google Sheet. Okay, so I have this demo Snowflake tab. At this moment, I have nothing. So let us test this flow and see how it works. Okay, so now what I'm trying to do is that in that Google Sheet, I have one column ID and one column name. If you come see here, that ID and name automatically comes. So this is what DataPill is doing. So it parts that particular Google Sheet, and it automatically populates that ID and name column, which are the output column. And then here I can select that what should I send to this field. So I can send ID here from my triggering expression. So you can see that ID is coming from this trigger expression. So whatever the output of this trigger event, this ID I am populating over here. Similar name I can populating over here. If you want to do some kind of transformation, you can this custom expression. So here inbuilt functions are available. There are date type functions, string type functions, and number functions. So these are the three functions are available. Exhaustive list of functions. You can click on data and you can select your data, and you can apply some operation, and then you can apply some function, and you can apply, functions can be nested. So you can whatever is the output of one function, that can be input of another function. So that way you can create create some kind of data transformation. And once you are done, it will automatically show whether the syntax is valid. If you apply, the expression will get applied. So any question? Okay, so now we have to test the flow. So for testing the flow, so I have something here already written in the insert statement. So I will insert the statement, and I will test this this particular flow and see how it works. Let me insert this here. So I have added one row, and I will click on the test. Taking some time. And now it is waiting for the trigger event. I believe I already inserted one row, so it should get triggered. Yeah, so the test finished. If I now go to this Excel, this Google sheet, you can see that the data has got inserted. So it's just one. This is how you can do your testing. I believe. This is the process. Now, instead of sending one row, you can send multiple row, and maybe it's a very simplified implementation just for demo purpose. But in original scenario, you might have a lot of test cases to cover. So you can go by your. You can go to your triggering event, and you can manipulate your triggering event accordingly. Like in this case, you can insert multiple row and you see how it is behave. And also when you are doing testing, use all the connection which is actually connected to your target test instances. And once you are done, before activate, you can change that connection with production instances, production connection, and then you can activate it. Then because then it will start interacting with the original or the production environment of it. So to activate, you have to click on this activate. Once you click on this activate, it will got activated. And once it got activated, I'm not activating it at this moment. What you can do, you can go to your flow and you can click on the flow and you can start monitoring this. Now, suppose I am monitoring this flow, and it's not possible for me to always sit in front of this console and see how these transactions are moving. I only want to get notified when this transaction got failed. So what you need to do, you need to go to these settings and you can click on this email notification. If you enable this, then whatever email ID is configured for your access to this particular composer, on that mail, you will start getting email notification if some error occurred. So unfortunately, this is my company email and it's my personal machine. I cannot access my company email for my personal machine, but I have taken a screenshot. So this is the, if you're able to see my screen. So this is how the mails will look. You have some error occurred and you can check, then you go back and check your the flow and you will see what is the error. Okay, so once you come back here, so even if you enter into that flow, one way is that yes, you can click on this error message, it will give you some details. Other thing is that if it is continuously failing, you can go to edit mode and it will show you that at which step the error is occurring. Okay, so when there should be some error, suppose some connection got corrupted or the underneath table got deleted somehow, someone dropped that table in Snowflake and the error is occurring. So it will mark it red and it will give you some message so that you can understand what is happening, why this error is happening. So then I have one more flow, demo flow. Actually, this is something I have created that flow with little bit keeping businesses in mind. I have this flow. So let me show you the flow, the business scenario first. So this is something called patient matching because I am working in a clinical trial organization, my customers. So this is not exactly what they are doing because the exact process is much more complicated than this. But how you can do a hyper automation, and the demo, whatever I'm showing here, demo is a subset of that, but just to give you an idea. So suppose there is a end customer who are, or the some people or business people who actually used to send patient details, and there is a new drug is getting manufactured and that drug needs to be tested, and these patients are actually enrolling themselves to get into that trial process, and you can apply the drugs on them with their consent and definitely with some of the maintaining some regulation process. So someone has to manually take that data and insert into that trial process management. So instead of doing this, how your overall MuleSoft uh, hyper automation offering can comes handy in this kind of situation. That is what I try to depict. So since someone has sent a detail to a Google Sheet, and then you can MuleSoft RPA process which will read that Google Sheet, and then it will load the trial management system, considering the fact that trial management system it's a desktop application, and you cannot use any API and all. So after that, you can use a API layer on your AnyPoint platform. What it will do after every certain time, I mean within a certain scheduled time, it will get invoked. It will extract the data from your trial management system. Then it will run some rule from some rule engine, using some rule engine, and it will see that whether these patients are eligible for get enrolled because their physical condition, their demographics, age, everything. So that will consider a lot of factors. Ideally, I mean, from my experience, I have seen there can be 1,000 factors to see that whether this patient is eligible for a trial or not. So once it is done, then it will send the data to a data lake. I mean, it can be something else where it will store all the patients which are supposed to, I mean, which are actually uh, eligible for this particular trial process. Now, there can be some boundary cases also where some manual intervention is required. So in that case, what can happen? I mean, a study designer can create a composer flow, and that composer flow can extract the data from data lake, create a report, and suppose it can load it on a Google Sheet or somewhere, and then the patient study designer can manually do some another level of review, and then if some additional patient needs to be added, some additional patient needs to be excluded, they can do it. So entire process, maximum at least 80% of the process is automated, and that will give lot of, I mean, whoever is the study designer, they can focus on the other core activity instead of doing all this manual reconciliation and all. And also it will give lot of correct result instead of, I mean, because if you have to manually I mean, go through all this criteria for each and every patient and take a decision, definitely there can be some human errors. So you can, I mean, avoid that kind of human errors. You can generate some compliance report very easily, because in trial organization, managing compliance itself is a daunting task. So that also can be automated. So this is just, I mean, to give an idea that how a business process or how hyper automation can be implemented in end-to-end business process flow. And the demo, what I can show you, I mean, right now I'm going to show you that what I'm doing, it's a, I mean, it's just a POC kind of thing. So where we have a Google Sheet, I can enter some patient data. MuleSoft Composer will go and invoke a Mule API through a HTTP connector, and then, HTTP connection, and then it will see this Mule API, what it is doing. It is actually showing me that whether the patient is a match or it's not a match. If it's a match, it will go and insert the data into Snowflake. If it is not a match, it will go and generate a Slack, I mean, through Slack channel, it will generate some message to someone, and then some of the audit data will go to Google Sheet. So let me show you this. So this is the flow I have created. So this flow will start with a Google Sheet. I mean, I create a trigger for a Google Sheet, and this is the Google Sheet I am using. This is test. Okay. And I have a very simple API created and deployed on one in the Cloud Hub. So let me show you the body. Basically, if I pass all this information, I am checking if the state is Florida and sugar level is either 200 or below 200, then only it will show a match. So if I send it, it will send match as no, because the sugar level is 200. If I match it 120, then it will show me yes. I mean, just for demo purpose, very simple API. So this is the composer, and so sorry, in the composer flow, I have created the trigger event, and then I am creating a HTTP connection, and through that HTTP connection, I am posting data. Basically, I'm taking the these columns value, so this ID, name, sugar level, and state, and I am posting it into that HTTP endpoint. And I have declared that it's application/JSON so that it can correctly post it. So now, before I move further, let me show you how to create a HTTP connection. So if I go to here, if I add a new HTTP connection, let's give a and I will, for this I am just taking a basic authentication. Basically, I don't have any authentication implemented. As I mentioned, it's very simple HTTP endpoint I have created. So I will just take this one and I will put it as base URL and username, anything you can give, because it is my actual end implementation is not going to check any authentication. So I'm just giving for sake of giving something. It's all garbage value, username and password. So I will keep next. So I will do a post method here. You can put a gate also if you have a gate endpoint. This, because this is, you are creating the connection and it will just ping that and see that testing is happening. Actual method and all, where you want to send your data, you need to define it in the action section, not the connection section. So anyways, since I have only one method and one endpoint, so I will use this. So this is my request path where it will ping and see whether everything is okay or not. I will add a request header. So I will see a content type application/JSON, and I will add a request body. So let me copy this, put it, and if I now click connect, so my HTTP connection is now got created. Okay. And now when you come, it automatically open a HTTP action. So if you want to use it, you can use a simple request. You can also have an option of paginated request. So I'm just creating simple request, and you have to select. This is the method where you want to, I mean, send the data. I mean, if it is get, you have to use a get. I am using post because I'm sending some data, so it will be post. And then you have to make the path. So I can make the path means actually the endpoint where it should go. So I will put it like this. So anyways, I'm not going to configure the entire step because it's already defined earlier. In the above section of the flow. So then you can add some header, you can send some query parameter, and finally you can select addition. I mean, you can send some example response, and you can define your body. One thing you remember, since you are sending a JSON endpoint, so always add a header and at least set that content type. Otherwise, you can get some error. Okay, because it will, by default, then it will consider it as a text. So let me delete these steps. Exactly same thing I have done over here. So here it's my, I mean, this is the body portion, and this is the values I am sending as a JSON. And once I send, I also loading this data to our audit section. I mean, in my this there is another tab called result, where actually I am sending. I mean, I am storing the output of my output of the API. So this is from some of the earlier test. So let me delete it. So it will also record that whether match is yes or other match is no. Now after this, so if you see here, I just put some kind of transformation. What I'm doing, I'm whatever idea I'm getting, I'm just converting into a number and then add 20. I mean, it's just to demonstrate that you can do data transformation also over here. And it's very simple way of doing it, because you need not to know a lot of, I mean, it's kind of plain English. The function name and all are very clear what it is actually doing. And then I have a if else logic where I have put a if else step. So what I'm doing, I'm checking. If you see in the if section, you can either use a all condition must be met, so it will be and. You can specify a or you can put a custom logic. Okay, and then you can put a field, and then you can say that whether the operator is equal or does not equal or contains whatever it is, and you can put a value against it. So this is just like you are defining your if section, and once everything is done, you will have a else section. You can add multiple if section, so it's like any other language what how we are defining if else section. Okay, and then finally what I'm trying to do over here is that if the match patient is matching, so I will send the data to a Snowflake table. If it is not matching, actually I'm sending to a Slack connection. So here is one of the Slack operation. I'm not doing all the detail of Slack operation and all. I mean, if you are interested, I also have some YouTube in my YouTube channel. I have uploaded already some video on how to configure Slack connection and Google Sheet connection for Composer. For Composer, you can refer that if you want. But anyways, it's a operation provided by MuleSoft Composer Slack connection, where if you don't know the username, you can the option to get user by email. So I have a Slack connection defined. I used my personal email ID. Based on that, it will retrieve my Slack user ID and it will send me a message that this patient is not matching. And this is the way how I can concatenate multiple value. It's very easy. I'm just putting the field value and put some hyphen, and it will automatically concatenate the value and send it to the Slack channel. So if I have to test it, let me go here. So I have to test here. What I will do, I will just change a value and I will try to trigger the transaction. So let me click on test. Okay, before that, let me open my Slack channel. Sorry. So this is where I'm supposed to get a response. So okay. Let me test it. And I will suppose I check. I can instead of Florida, I give some other value, state value. So now it will directly go to that Slack channel. It's taking some time. Sorry, I'm taking some little bit more time, but we are almost at the end of the session. So meanwhile, any question?
No, Ananda, there is no question.
Guys, anyone is interested in asking a question, they can also unmute and they can ask.
Yeah, Abhishek, Ananda, this is Raghavendra. I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
So here, as you showed, like for up the data from a Google Sheet, whenever data is modified in the Google Sheet, it is coming and going to the endpoint. Okay. So you showed there were some functions that we can do for and data transformation as well. So is there any option for doing the data validation as well? Like it should be all character, no special character should be there. As if we put it into some database, it will throw some error.
That logic, I mean, kind of validation, we are familiarized in MuleSoft. I mean, MuleSoft API, MuleSoft application. That kind of complex logic is not possible, and that is why, I mean, because in the past slide, what I showed, Raghavendra, when you talk about hyper automation, right, you need to consider all three offerings, right? So what you can do, if you see my screen, you can do a lot of validation logic, and you can create a process or system API, maybe a process API or a business rule API here. Okay. And
Okay.
that API can in turn you can call in the composer. So that API will do the heavy lifting of doing all kind of validation and let the composer know, okay, you can proceed further, all the data is got validated. Exactly same thing I am also doing over here. Okay, I'm just keeping a simple API, but that API is actually checking something for me and doing the validation.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, all the validation, everything that we want to do, we'll do over there. Only here to remove that manual interaction, we are using the RPA and doing this Mule Composer flow operation, right?
Correct. We are doing automation, and if you see these functions, if those functions what I show, these are mostly to transform data. Suppose you are having first name and last name in your Google sheet, which is triggering the event. But when you are actually sending the data to down the line Snowflake table, there is only one field called name, and you need to concatenate first name and last name. Kind of transformation you can do. Or if you want to transform the date into some other format, or maybe you want to take the day of the date or something like that. So that sort of things you can do over here. But if there are a lot of business rules and all, you want to validate the data against whether it's pattern matching or something like that. So that better to do it in you do it outside MuleSoft Composer, maybe in MuleSoft API or some reusable application, and then call it from Composer, and Composer will send that data to that particular third-party application or MuleSoft API. That API in turn will send back that whether it's a valid data or not. Then Composer will accordingly act.
Okay, understood. And another thing, like suppose if is for data migration. So over there we have large amount of data, right? In sheets, where like suppose Google Sheet only, there will be like millions of records for a legacy company which is over like working since like 25 years. So they have a lot of data. So if we use that and we get after all the transformation, we get all the data in the Google Sheet, and like so here we had the option of for each, and so if we use that, so it will take a lot of time. Other than that, other than the time, there will be some constraint for memory and processing.
No, there is no constant in memory and processing. I think the only constant is, as I mentioned, how much credentials you have. I mean,
Yeah.
if that credential exceed, it will process will not work. But one thing we need to remember, I mean, if it's a one-time sync up and all, you can use your MuleSoft batch process. But this composer is mostly for business people to create some of their day-to-day tasks. Suppose you have, I mean, what is the best for composer is like there is one business person. Okay, he is getting a lot of mail from Salesforce that some opportunity get closed, and now he has to go and maybe in NetSuite he needs to create a it's a suppose new requirement, or he has to open some project over there. Okay, so that opportunity got closed means that the deal is closed. Now you are opening some project with that particular customer and all. So instead of doing it manually, he can create a composer flow, so automatically these two systems can sync, and business can need not to every day they need not to do it manually. Or maybe on your service cloud, some customer has reported some support request. Okay, and someone has to manually collect all this support request and send it, log a Jira ticket, and then call the operational team or the respective team to take action on it. Instead of it, it can be done through this composer flow, where using 3-4 applications it can be synced up. So anything happened, a service request raised in one application, automatically a Jira ticket or incident ticket can be created on your incident management system, and then you can using Slack or maybe Microsoft so this Teams channel, you can communicate to some of the team, I mean through your collaboration platform, and those respective team will all aware and they can keep on updating. So that way you can use. But yeah, sync possible. The only thing is that it depends on how much credential you purchase. and how the credentials are getting consumed.
Okay, yeah, understood. Thank you.
No problem. So now this is, I mean, I just send this message, and I mean, sorry, I just tweak the data in such a way it should fail, it should not match, and it is saying that it has rejected that patient, and it's come to my Slack channel. Now, same thing if I do here, let's see, I can do something like Florida here. For that, I need to test. Wait unless that, I mean, I have to trigger the event once the test is ready. So testing. So instead of 20, let me make it 130. Meanwhile, I can show you that this result here also it is added to this row saying that the match is yes. Now this test is also finished. Okay, so it's actually updated because it is same name and these things ID, and it's now showing the match is updated. So now instead of there is no more message on my Slack channel because it passed, so it is supposed to go to the Snowflake table. So if I go to Snowflake, and this is the table I am using, run it. So now I can see the same value added into my table. So this is how you can automate the flow. I believe that this is, I mean, sorry, I take some additional time, but this is what I was planned to cover. And I think, yeah, this is what I want to show you. Snowflake, I already mentioned what is Snowflake. Snowflake is now catching a lot of, I mean, interest. A lot of organizations are trying to implement Snowflake because of its flexibility and scalability. It's actually a SaaS application. Now, I am also not a Snowflake expert, so I cannot, I don't know all the nitty-gritty of Snowflake. I just want to, I mean, as an integration developer or integration practitioner, I just use Snowflake to connect my flow and try to get or insert data or get data from that Snowflake application as a backend system. So it's, yeah, pretty much that's it. So anyone has any question? I think I'm in the Q&A mode. So one more thing I want to show you. I mean, Abhishek and Akim, is it okay that if I take 2 more minutes?
Sure, we have time.
Okay. So one more thing, as I mentioned, I mean, I cannot configure it, I cannot show you, but I can show the steps. I mean, high level, I can show you the steps. That is that if you have a anypoint platform and if you have some API, so how you can, your composer can use that API. So suppose you are a business person and it's not possible for me to go to Exchange and see what all API are available, or maybe I am a IT person but I don't want all the API to be available for the business person, maybe a handful of API. So what we need to do, you need to go to the settings and you need to go to the account, and then you need to copy this organization ID. Okay, I'm just changing it, I don't want to show it more, but yeah. So once you copy your organization ID, you go to your anypoint platform. Okay, this is my trial version, and here what you can do, you go to your access management, and you can see here there is a try new feature button. If you click on this, you will get a composer sync. Okay, so basically in this composer sync, if you add the organization, I mean add a composer org, and if you paste that organization or your composer organization and you start add it, then what will happen, automatically your MuleSoft composer will start linking that anypoint account or anypoint organization to your composer organization, and then it will create a client application. So once that, so Composer will create a client application on your AnyPoint platform. So once that client application got created, then you can go to Exchange, and whatever is your REST API available. So REST API available, so you can go to REST API and then you can request access against that client application. Once you do that, then if you go to your MuleSoft flow, and if you click on that connection, sorry, let me go to edit. So I cannot show you because I didn't configure it, since that's my trial version. So if you click over here and if you click on system action, along with these connections, you can also see those API will also appear over here. So you can use those API directly. Okay. So that is how you can use your, that is how MuleSoft is allowing a composable API solution to be leveraged into your MuleSoft Composer flow. So I think that's it from my end. Any further question?
Yeah, guys, anyone, any question? You can just feel free to ask. And anyone?
Or anything you want to share or any feedback?